Hey everybody, welcome to ScreenCrush. My name is Doug. Ryan's on vacation. I'm kind of nervous. I don't want to do this.
Hey, Doug, it's Colton from Comics Alliance. You want some help?
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. I'm very small.
Alright, well, welcome to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, in for Ryan Airy. And in this one, we have got a lot to talk about. She-Hulk Episode 6 may have introduced a new team of supervillains into the MCU, so we've got to talk the Leader, MODOK, Ulysses Klaue, Dr. Doom, Justin Hammer, Aldrich Killian, the Kingpin, and Todd.
What a specimen.
Did you just call me a specimen?
As a compliment.
So, Episode 6 introduced a website called Intelligencia.
The one for hateful man babies?
Yep, that's the one.
This website is full of disturbing posts calling for the death of She-Hulk. Now, in the comics, Intelligencia is a group of highly intelligent supervillains founded by the Leader. The Leader was teased way back in 2008 in The Incredible Hulk, and he is confirmed to be returning in Captain America 4: New World Order. Now, we've speculated before that the Leader is very likely involved in this mission to steal Jen's blood. After all, The Incredible Hulk film is the only MCU film that Sameul Stern has appeared in, and it showed us his origin of becoming the Leader. That film also revolved heavily around Hulk blood. In The Incredible Hulk, we see that Bruce is working with Mr. Blue, aka Sameul Stern, to create an antidote to rid him of the Hulk. It is also in this film that we see a sample of Bruce Banner's blood drip into an open wound on Sameul Stern's head. This then makes his head begin to swell, he smiles, and we never see him again, but it was a tease for the Leader. Bruce's blood dripping into an open wound on Sameul is just like how Bruce's blood dripped into an open wound on Jen and turned her into She-Hulk. Now, The Incredible Hulk also featured Emil Blonsky's The Abomination, who of course has also appeared in this She-Hulk series.
As you can see, I'm in full control.
Blonsky actually forced Sameul Stern at gunpoint to turn him into the Abomination.
The mixture could be an abomination.
He said it! He said it!
So with all that being the case, it seems very likely that if there is a plot to steal some Hulk blood in a show that has focused heavily on Hulk blood,
it's way too dangerous to get out in the world, even if there's only a millionth% chance that it makes another one of us.
it just makes sense that Sameul Stern's would be involved. And while we haven't seen any Mr. Blue usernames on Intelligencia, that doesn't mean that he isn't the mysterious Hulk King, or that he isn't at least behind the operations at the lab we saw in Episode 6. I think it's very likely that Sameul Stern will get his classic comic name, The Leader, simply by being referred to as the leader of this mission to get Hulk blood and do God knows what with it. More on that in a bit. Now, in our most recent She-Hulk Easter egg video, I did fail to give a rundown of the Intelligencia team from the comics.
You're a phony! Hey, this guy's a great big phony!
Yeah, I don't know about you, new guy. I got my eye on you. Stupid new guy.
Let's talk about which villains could be involved in this big operation and what exactly it is they're planning on doing with Hulk blood. Let's start with MODOK.
Mental organism designed only for killing.
In the comics, MODOK is another key member of the Intelligencia team, and just like how the Leader will be appearing in Captain America: New World Order, MODOK is confirmed to be appearing in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And rumor has it he'll be played by Corey Stoll, who of course played Darren Cross's Yellow Jacket in the first Ant-Man film. After his supposed death in Ant-Man, it would make perfect sense that he was actually mutilated and then lost deep in the quantum realm. And it is there that he likely came across other civilizations that we know exist in the quantum realm.
Worlds upon worlds, entire civilizations, far more than we ever theorized.
But if we meet MODOK in Quantumania and we meet him in the quantum realm, I don't know how he'd be involved with the Leader and this mission to steal Hulk blood. But perhaps it's possible that he has already made his way out of the quantum realm and has already teamed up with the Leader to create an army of superpowered individuals that they can use to take over the world.
Time to change the world by bringing it to its knees. Attack!
And while the Leader is focused on Hulk powers, perhaps MODOK, aka Darren Cross, is plotting to yet again weaponize the PEM particle.
The Yellow Jacket is an all-purpose weapon of war.
Imagine that, Hulks that can shrink and go giant mode.
We're doomed.
Now, in the comics, MODOK works very closely with AIM. AIM, or Advanced Idea Mechanics, is a criminal organization of mad scientists whose mission is to take over all of the world's governments using their expertise in science and technology. Now, this sounds to me like an organization that would be involved in a film titled Captain America: New World Order. Now, we have heard mention of AIM before in the MCU. Aldrich Killian, aka the fiery dude from Iron Man 3.
You breathe fire? Okay.
He was the CEO of AIM, and if you'll remember, they were working on something called Extremist. It was a procedure that could help veteran amputees regrow limbs that they lost in combat. But it also gave them these fiery powers, and they could also be used essentially as bombs. Now, Aldrich Killian seemingly died at the end of Iron Man 3, but remember, this is the MCU and death does not exist.
So dead brother, huh? Yeah, it could be annoying.
Well, he's been dead before.
Now, I want to stop and ask you, are you noticing a theme here? Villains from earlier phases of the MCU that were either assumed dead or just forgotten, all involved in some type of technological or scientific field that could be used to create dangerous beings that could take over the world?
By bringing it to its knees!
No, not the beast!
And I mean, it doesn't end there. We have Ulysses Klaue from Age of Ultron and Black Panther.
I can see you. Okay, I can see you.
He is documented as a former Intelligencia member in his SHIELD file. So if this new needle is indeed made of vibranium, it is very likely that it was Klaue who was able to get it for them. Now, whether or not he somehow survived his death in Black Panther, or if he's still dead but the Intelligencia was able to access vibranium he had stored somewhere, either way, I think he was somehow involved. Plus, we've got old creepy Todd mentioning vibranium while he's on his date with She-Hulk.
My skin is impenetrable, at least with anything on Earth.
Even vibranium?
And then we have other villains such as Justin Hammer, who is currently incarcerated.
Tony and I, Tony's cool. Tony and I, we have an understanding. We're both brothers in arms, you know. Literally, we were both arms dealers.
He could be involved in creating and providing funding and resources for various types of armor and weaponry. And then of course we have the Kingpin. Now we know he has obviously taken something to give him his newfound super strength. Now we've theorized before that maybe he got his hands on some super soldier serum, but maybe it was his new friend Sameul Stern who has helped him enhance his strength. Now another character who has been a member of Intelligencia in the comics is Dr. Victor Von Doom. He was teased in this animated shoe scene from She-Hulk episode 5, so maybe he too has a role to play in this plan to take over the world.
Bringing it to its knees!
I mean, we do have the Fantastic Four coming soon, so his MCU debut is likely also coming very soon. Now we know that Kang the Conqueror and the multiverse are the big focal points for phases 4, 5, and 6 of the MCU, just like the Infinity Stones were the focus of phases 1, 2, and 3. But in phases 1, 2, and 3, there were films and villains that didn't necessarily have anything to do with Infinity Stones or Thanos, but they still played a major role in the Infinity Saga. They still played a major role in building up our characters. So now with the MCU being even bigger with all of these TV shows and more movies and a ton more characters than the Infinity Saga had, it would make perfect sense for there to be a B story, if you will, occurring in the Multiverse Saga. A story that focuses more so on the fate of the planet rather than the fate of the universe.
Look, it's not overselling it to say that the fate of the universe is at stake.
Now, we have theorized before that the Kingpin may be the big bad for a street-level crossover event. We've speculated that he may be building an army that could take on a world full of superheroes that could stand in his way. Remember, he's very much so in the MCU now, so he doesn't just have Daredevil to worry about anymore. Now, speaking of Daredevil, we know he'll be appearing in the She-Hulk show at some point, and that he and She-Hulk will be working together.
This guy's really kind of doing it for me.
Now, why would Daredevil be in LA? We know that in the MCU, Matt Murdock is based in New York City from his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home. So maybe Matt is actually tracking the Kingpin and he has discovered that he is funding this whole operation. Now that we've talked about all those villains, I have saved the absolute worst for last. Todd. Todd is without a doubt up to something. His interest in She-Hulk's powers.
Well, what about super speed, night vision, impenetrable skin?
Him meeting with Mallory Book, a fellow lawyer in the Superhuman Law Division. And remember, this was prior to Jen getting the idea to bring him on as a witness in her case against Titania. Now, speaking of Titania, I do think that she'll be recruited by the Intelligencia to help take down She-Hulk. But I think we will see Titania realize how disturbingly awful the Intelligencia are, and then we'll see her decide to help She-Hulk take them down.
She's not alone.
Now back to Todd. What superhuman case could Todd be tending to? And honestly, why hasn't She-Hulk wondered that herself? I mean, she's over this entire division. You'd think that she would be aware of what business Todd has with GLK&H's Superhuman Law Division. But to be fair, it's possible that Mallory Book also works in other departments at GLK&H besides the Superhuman Law Division. Now, it's also worth pointing out that Todd appears to be rich.
Are you a client or?
I am. I'm one of the biggest. Just had a meeting with my favorite lady lawyer.
No touching.
So it may be Todd who is funding this whole operation. And I just want to say that if we're right that the leader is involved, the question then becomes why? And where has he been all these years? I mean, in universe, we haven't seen his character in over 15 years. And let me be clear, he wasn't a bad guy in The Incredible Hulk. Yeah, he kind of had a little bit of a weird admiration for the Hulk.
You've seen what he becomes, right?
I have. And it's beautiful.
Are you telling me you can make more like him?
No, not yet. I've sorted out a few pieces. He was a freak accident. The goal is to do it better.
But he never had the mission of using this power for evil. He never had the desire to take over the world.
By bringing it to its knees!
So one possibility is that this mutation after Hulk blood dripped into his head wound, maybe that corrupted his mind. Or maybe he's become a bit of a mad scientist who is desperate to create the perfect Hulk. Perhaps for what he views as for the good of mankind. And that desire to complete his work is now clouding his judgment. If someone like the Kingpin or Todd has given him the funding and the ability to get his hands on Hulk blood, thus giving him the ability to finally complete his experiment, that would explain his turn. Perhaps he's become convinced that a new world order is what's best for mankind. But there's also the possibility that he's doing all of this work and then Kingpin or Todd or whoever turn around, stab him in the back, and use his creation for evil. So look, I don't think we're going to see a team of villains that necessarily refer to themselves as the Intelligencia. I think in the MCU, Intelligencia is just a spoof of a site like 4chan or a darker side of Reddit, but I think the fact that they decided to call the site the Intelligencia is definitely a reference to the leader and likely other villains who are coming together to do something sinister, and that these villains are using this website to attract and rile up vulnerable, angry, easily manipulated
man babies.
Similar to how the Riddler utilized an online community of
man babies
in the Batman. Now before we go, I actually do have one more potential villain that I wanted to mention, and that is Emil Blonsky. Yes, he does seem to be reformed and is now in full control of the Beast, but is it possible that he's also involved with this evil plot? Could it have been the leader that helped Blonsky tame the Abomination, being that it was him who helped create it in the first place? We know from trailers that despite his new inhibitor chip, he does transform back into the Abomination at some point in this series. Now, look, I love the new direction they've taken his character. I think it's fun, different, it's really cool, but it would make sense to find out that this villain is still a villain and was just putting on a show to get out of prison. And you'll notice that he wasn't included as part of the Thunderbolts lineup, so maybe that's a sign that he is going to be a bad guy. But if Blonsky is still bad, then that does bring into question why he wouldn't have accepted Wong's offer to not return him to prison.
I offered him asylum at Kamatage, but he was quite adamant he'd be returned to serve out his sentence and repay his debt to society.
Case closed.
Okay, no.
Hopefully that is a sign that Blonsky is truly reformed, and maybe we'll get to see him help She-Hulk take on the Intelligencia villains, and then maybe even join the Thunderbolts later on. And it would be cool to see Blonsky go toe-to-toe with the leader, and then maybe even hear the leader say something along the lines of, "Ah, yes, my abomination." Okay, so there are our theories for the direction the MCU may be taking the She-Hulk series, Captain America 4, and their plans for the Intelligencia as a whole. Let us know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below, and if you're new here, please do feel free to subscribe and smash that bell so you get alerted when we upload new videos. And for those of you wondering, yes, Ryan Airy will be back soon, I promise, but until then, for ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.